Welcome to the 10th and final episode of Sora is Bad, where we go through the recents page on Sora, we look at the recent generations that people have made, we take a look at what works, what doesn't work, give some critiques, and hopefully have a lot of laughs along the way. Right off the bat, I see something pretty interesting right here. The prompt is Mona Lisa with cat, and sure enough, there's Mona Lisa with a cat right there. But let's take a look what happens when we hit play. So there's the cat, all of a sudden, oh, there's some movement in the cat, and it's just suddenly flying around all wonky and crazy. Now, this is a 10-second long clip, but it's not a loop. It begins with the cat kind of looking forward, and it ends with the cat looking that way. I thought maybe it was a loop because of the way the cat kind of went up, floated around the air a little bit, landed back down, but it's not. So this could potentially be used for something. It still looks pretty good overall. I mean, it obviously isn't even kind of real. And I would have expected something a little bit more realistic, given this prompt. I don't know what they prompted it for, like why they wanted this video, if they just wanted to see it, if they were doing some testing, or if they wanted to use it in something. And since it isn't a super realistic video in the first place, one other thing I noticed is that at first it looks like a painting, then the cat kind of comes alive, it jumps off, and as it's moving around, there's some other kind of warping going on around here. So the Mona Lisa picture doesn't look like a picture anymore. It kind of looks a little bit 3D, or at the very least, like it's on something flexible that's kind of like waving a little bit. I'll play this one more time at normal speed, and as soon as the cat lifts off, we can see all the warping right around here. So just kind of unusual. Overall, it's a cute little video, but Sora definitely had an interesting take on that prompt. For number 2, let's take a look at what's going on here. Korean woman in her 20s wearing dark cobalt blue jeans and high heels in a very urgent state of rest, knocking on the door of the bathroom compartment to ask her to come out. So it starts off okay, as they often do. It looks real enough. She looks very tall. Well, she is wearing heels, I guess. But then almost immediately, the anatomy and the movement just go way off the rails. That is not a natural pose. I mean, I know some contortionists might be able to do that, but the average person just isn't going to. And there's something kind of weird going on with these doors. I guess they could be full-length glass doors, but then this reflection right here wouldn't make any sense. The bottoms make them look like they're open stalls, but there's definitely some amount of reflection up there, and it doesn't look like it's the inside walls necessarily. So just some more weirdness going on there. This is another 10-second clip, and just right off the bat, it doesn't look quite right. And here, she doesn't look like she's urgently trying to get in there. She just kind of casually puts her foot up. But the image quality is okay. The reflection over here makes some sense. As we often see, you might be able to take little clips of this and actually use them in something. But overall, because of what happens right here, I can't say this would be a usable clip as prompted. For number 3, let's check this out. It is a storyboard that looks like it came from another video. The video that was used in the storyboard, it looks almost identical. So we have a table of 3 people over there. We can see some stuff on those whiteboards. And then there's that guy in the plaid shirt sitting there. So the original one ends as soon as the guy in the plaid shirt right here is on screen. So this was to extend it. And its extension continued looking around until we saw this. So for an extension, it works. The weird thing about this is this computer at the bottom, the way that keyboard is positioned, the bottom is away from them. So it's not like they're walking around holding a laptop, like this to be able to use it. Also, their hands are on top of the keyboard, not necessarily anything underneath. Now, we can make all sorts of potential assumptions like, oh, he's got some kind of, shoulder thing on with a little tray that's holding it so his hands are on top. And I don't know what their original prompt or goal with this was, but all of that other stuff aside, even the keyboard itself is just messed up. You can tell that those keys right there aren't how they should be. This is another kind of unusual setup to have this sort of table on this chair thing. It's not really in between. This isn't on the floor. It definitely looks like this is some kind of a chair with pillows with a table sitting on top of it. Not really enough room to sit around that. So that's just kind of unusual. Pretty much everything else, though, looks plausibly good. They all look like people. There's nothing too deformed. The lighting is good. Image quality is good. The lights on the ceiling kind of make sense. It looks like they're at least pretty close to in rows and things like that. The furniture with the tables, other than this one, looks like they could make sense. And as we continue around with the extension, the new part, the floor, matches up with the way the boards are on the floor. This computer looks a little bit weird, but that's just nitpicking, really. So overall, this could be a really good clip other than this weird looking computer and keyboard right there. For number 4, let's take a look at this. I figured it was going to be a 20-second clip because it looks really long. It's actually only 10 seconds. And overall, from the thumbnail, this looked pretty good. I'm not going to read the prompt. We're just going to look at this. It looks kind of like a drone shot, at night. Not sure why that glare is so apparent right there, but we come up to a waterfall. The moon is positioned right over it. All in all, that looks pretty good. Would be pretty awesome if the drone kind of like went right over the waterfall, almost skimming it, but who knows what they originally wanted. And I guess I could read the prompt. For being a 480p 10-second clip, this one looks pretty good overall. For number 5, let's take a look at this. And this is one of those cases where immediately it looks like a terrible cut and paste job, with that eagle not even kind of matching the rest of the video. This prompt is generating a video where an eagle dressed as an airplane pilot flies an aircraft with dexterity, handling the cockpit as it takes to the skies. So a good enough prompt, it makes sense. We want an eagle dressed as an airplane pilot flying this aircraft. So there are a few problems here. Number 1, kind of unusual that we start with some gauges up top. In some airplanes, I know they're there, but this one, it doesn't look like they belong. The eagle doesn't even kind of match the rest of the video. It looks very cartoony. And then as we continue, it kind of gets up and starts flying, and for whatever reason, its headgear just disappears behind its head. It's kind of flapping around in a way that doesn't make sense. The wing is kind of inside the cockpit, and then its goggles come back, and I'm not sure what's going on with its kind of tail feather growing out of its left foot. And then it kind of turns around and then kind of warps around. We get this all the time where this would be its back right here. And as we continue around, all of a sudden that's its front without actually turning. So that's very common. This is a 15-second 720p video, so they are on the $200 per month plan for this. Right here we have 3 wings, another issue. It kind of gets further away, which wouldn't make sense inside this cockpit, and then it kind of keeps flapping and comes a little bit closer, and it's not even... And right there, its wing is definitely being shown as outside of the cockpit. So either this cockpit doesn't have any windows and the bird is just kind of flapping around in there while somebody else is piloting the plane, but for the prompt, this misses it in many different ways. For number 6, this one looks quite bad. That's weird. This penguin over here looks interesting, but also not that great. But let's look at a good one. Let's take a look at this little cat. The prompt is create video of kittens making gamer gifts for kids at Christmas. So we have this cute little kitten. It looks Christmassy. We have some video game related stuff. Some of it's a little bit nonsensical, but that's kind of all right. I can let that slide here because it does look good overall. The thing I'm most impressive with is it looks like the cat is actually kind of trying to do something with its paws. Now, they don't have fingers. They're not going to be super dexterous in what they're doing, but compared to a lot of other generations I've seen, this one's definitely a step above. Now, the movement isn't like super realistic. I mean, it's a cat working on some video game electronics, but I do like that they kind of threw in this reaching over to the side to hit something over here and then back to what they were doing. That's a nice little touch. So overall, this could be used for something. It's cute, the image quality is pretty good, the movement is realistic enough, and overall I'd say this is a success. For video number 7, let's take a look at this. 2 husky dogs. So 2 huskies, one black and white, the other all white, playing in the freshly fallen snow. So right off the bat, the scene looks good. We have some snow, we have a black and white husky, and an all white one. And stop. Already derailed about halfway through. So they're playing in the snow. That looks pretty good. The movement of this white one kind of going backwards, it's not quite right. They wouldn't move like that, running backwards like that. There'd be a lot more kind of pushing themselves backwards, so they're kind of skating on top of the snow. The main issue, however, is with this black and white one in the middle, right there. Their head, well, it's kind of gone here. So their head is down here as they're playing. Pretty soon their head is going to be right here. It just kind of starts to pop out of nothing. The tail kind of disappears. It pops out over here. Let's take a look at that again. It kind of uncurls from this side, and now they have a tail over there, and they've switched their front with their back, and that's not the end. There's still some funky stuff going on up here. Not exactly sure what it's trying to accomplish. Oh, another tail. So now it's just like a two-tailed dog. Kind of interesting. And as we continue to step through, the head comes back over here again, and they continue playing. So this whole like middle section alone is enough to make this unusable, even though it starts good, it starts well, and it finishes, decent looking, but that middle part, no go. For number 8, let's take a look at this one. It has a storyboard. A Japanese man in a suit is walking through a spacious modern office. He's wearing a black suit with white shirt and a blue tie. It has all that correct so far. The office has glass walls and bright lighting, with desks and computers neatly arranged. The man has a confident expression and is holding documents in his hand. Around him, people are seen working at their computers. A calm and composed atmosphere prevails. So right off the bat, it looks quite good. It has all of those things. It has the glass wall. It looks nice and bright in there. It got his clothes right. He has a good expression on his face. And one thing I noticed in the thumbnail of this one is he's walking pretty realistically. Oftentimes we have people kind of sliding or skating on the surface of the ground, but for this one, the feet look pretty planted, and that's good. The thing that caught my eye that's kind of an unfortunate thing are these papers on his right hand. So he has papers by both hands. This one, he's actually holding them. These ones, they're just kind of awkwardly like taped or glued or something to that hand. He's not actually holding onto them or holding them against his body or anything like that. So that's a pretty major issue, where otherwise this would be a really good clip, but that totally destroys the realism unless they have some kind of crazy excuse for why it should be like that. And we shouldn't have to excuse the AI models. It should do a little bit better than this, I think, especially when we see what it's capable of. It just messes up on these weird little things. For number 9, let's see what's going on right here. 3-year-old infant swimming in the ocean with dolphins. So right off the bat, that looks pretty good. Interesting thing about this, so we have the water level right here. We see the dolphin down there, and right now the kid would be underwater. And, it could look like this. Usually there'd be kind of more bubbles coming out, or their expression might be a little bit different if they were underwater. But this becomes a much bigger issue a little bit later on, where this is another one where it kind of has two clips, and it shouldn't. There's no reason for that separation. And so for this first part, I'll say it's all plausible. It could look like that, and the image quality overall is pretty okay. The issue is in this part, we've kind of lost it all. So now that kid looks like they're floating on water. For some reason, it's angled like that. And this dolphin, which looks a lot less realistic now, is kind of just coming out of the air. So it could be like one of those things. I know, like way deep down in the ocean when they were doing a submersible, it looked like there was a lake in the bottom of the ocean of much more dense liquid of some sort, but they were already underwater. This is kind of like one of those things where they look like they're underwater because of the dolphin, but the kid looks like it's on top of the water. So for the second half of this, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's not really like it's jumping out of the water and over the kid. That looks like the idea it was going for, because that splash, it just doesn't make any sense for that. Or, the movement, like it's coming this way, not over the kid. So I guess I would say this is one of the generations where you might be able to use little clips. Overall, it looks interesting. This beginning part, although it's not perfect, it's pretty okay. And then for the second part, the dolphin looks more fake, but you might be able to put just this part right here. Just the littlest bit of movement, a short little clip. The shadow on the face helps make it look a little bit more realistic and like they belong together, but it gets lost very quickly when we just look at it in full speed. Like that's just not how dolphins would move if they're flying through the air. I want to find a really good one for number 10. We've covered something like this before, where this geometry of this car doesn't really make sense at all. And we've seen plenty of this stuff where dogs spinning, anything that's alive, not looking quite right. We've seen it too many times. Interesting. This looks like it could possibly be okay. A band full of puppies imitating human performances. So from the thumbnail, one thing that I liked is there isn't really any obvious warping around, things popping in and out of existence, extra limbs. And the thing that I noticed is that they're kind of all bouncing together. So it looks like it could plausibly be a band playing together and just being like, yeah. Now, a couple things that aren't wonderful are the hand looks kind of weird sometimes, right up there. And the microphone being in the mouth, it almost looks like they're chewing on it a little bit, which, who knows what dogs look like when they sing while they're standing up and all this stuff. It's make-believe anyway, but, not wonderful. And then I did see one other little issue over here with this guitar playing dog. It almost looks like the head of the guitar kind of turns into a microphone a little bit. And then they decide, nope, it's not actually going to be a microphone. We're just going to put it back to a guitar. It kind of comes and goes a couple times. But, that's pretty small. Overall, this is a cute little thing. The camera movement looks pretty good. The scene looks pretty good. Nobody playing drums. Maybe that's the drummer over there. And he's just like, I'm going to break it down a little bit. So yeah, overall, this is a pretty okay one. Not perfect, but this could be usable for something. And that's going to do it for episode 10, our last and final episode. We have gone through more than 100 different videos since Sora launched. We've found some really impressive ones. We've found a whole lot of kind of silly ones or nonsensical ones. We've learned a bit about what people are prompting for, because there is a wide variety of things that people want to see video generators make that I wouldn't think of. I will say that overall, I'm not terribly impressed with Sora Generations compared to what was teased for almost a year before it was released. They said it was going to totally change the movie making game, that this was going to be so realistic that it was dangerous to let the public have access to it. All this kind of stuff that at this point, it's not quite there yet. Now, there is a little glimpse of what it's capable of with some fine-tuning, some changes behind the scenes. This could be a really impressive video generation AI. It does have competitors, some of which are definitely more consistent at producing good output than Sora is right now, and I'm hopeful that this will become a very useful tool for generating videos. So, thank you for watching this series, this video. If you like this content, let me know, leave a comment, like and subscribe, all that good stuff, and thanks for watching. Have a good one.